What's the word, Chief?
Hey guys, I'm K.Galaxia, and welcome to Watcha, Playin, a monthly series I'm running on my channel, telling you about the games I've been playing per month. Partly as a way for me to keep track of what I actually have been playing, because the games industry will never slow down. Ever. For anyone. This isn't the best games of the month, or a play these games or get these hands. This is just more a friendly conversation about the games I've been playing and really enjoying, so if you want to stay a while and listen, that'd be lovely. So, let's start this off, shall we? Let's talk about Dusk. So Dusk was sold to me as a retro shooter that really wears its heart on its sleeve, and for the most part, that is undeniable. The game looks like it wouldn't be out of place in a time next to Quake 2 or Half-Life, and the game definitely takes a few cues from them too. But as opposed to going down the route that most retro-inspired shooters go, which is, hey, remember this? This is just like that game you used to play. Dusk is more like a marriage between the old school and the new school. The old school stuff is what you'd expect. You've got your keycards, ridiculous beyond human movement speeds, an abundance of weapons to take down an even greater abundance of enemies, and large, sometimes labyrinthian levels. It's that last point though that, for me, the modern mind takes centre stage. The game takes place over 3 episodes, and while episode 1 feels like a standard introduction fare with some neat little twists, episodes 2 and 3 really ramp things up. A particular highlight for me is Escher Labs in episode 2. It starts off as a run-of-the-mill facility with your standard issue science stuff, until everything starts getting warped, like a oh, that's where the name comes from. I was going to reference Jindosh's mansion or the gimmick levels from Titanfall 2, but I mean, the clue is quite literally in the name. The biggest in terms of quite radical changes though comes in episode 3's Crypt of the Flesh. There's no fancy name game here, just a crypt with walls made of flesh. The level starts with you falling into the catacombs, a fall that breaks your flashlight, a surprisingly very powerful tool in this game. You're left in a dark dungeon, with the sounds of pained breathing coming from the lower levels. Can you guess where the game is going to send you now? Getting rid of the flashlight makes you rely on your other senses inside the rooms, and it makes you realise that this is actually a pretty decent horror game at the same time of being an amazing first-person shooter. My only real gripe with this game is the audio design regards yourself taking damage. Your character only makes one noise when getting hit, and this might be due to me growing up on Quake 2, but I love when you have a sliding scale of different agony sounds. Which is probably the most metal thing I'll say this month. Because it gives you a decent idea of where your health's at without explicitly having to take your eyes off center screen to check a number. That though is a very specific gripe for me, and it doesn't subtract from the overall experience at all. Basically, if you love shooters, you should be playing Dusk. Okay, so next up we're going to be taking a trip to ancient Greece for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you can spell that right the first time without looking it up, I'm going to call you a liar, because I mean, Abe's Odyssey ruined us all. So this entire experience is new to me, considering I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since Rogue, but it's all RPG now. You can tell because there's stats for days, and numbers come out of people when you smack them. It does feel weird though, because it does mean that at times, getting an assassination on someone doesn't necessarily mean a one-hit kill. It just means that I punch someone in the balls for massive damage, which, you know, that's accurate actually. I like that choice and consequence is an actual thing in Odyssey, and it can range from your character's personality and sexuality to changing the world and the lives of others in it. For example, early on I was told that someone was burning a village to the ground to stop a plague. I see these priests about to kill a family who aren't really showing signs of illness, and my Cassandra, who lives with the mantra of take no shit, did not take too kindly to these guys. Needless to say, blood was shed. However, turned out these people did in fact have the plague, and now that entire island is a wasteland, all due to my actions. On the subject of choice and consequence though, we are heading into my major gripe with this game, and it's pretty huge. But it is also quite spoiler heavy, so if you want to avoid spoilers, go to the timecode on screen, but you can probably guess what I'm going to be talking about. So in the most recent DLC, your character has a kid as part of a hetero relationship. And this doesn't sound like a big deal, right? And no, it's a really big deal. Like a really, really big deal. No bueno, not good. See, a lot of people are playing their character LGBT, which is something that since the launch has been an a-okay approach. You do you, buddy. But then here comes a huge major story element in which your character that you've been lovingly crafting, for some people in the hundreds of hours, and wham, bam, hetero relationship, no thank you, man. On a basic level, this kinda sucks for a game which has been really heftily pushing the "this is your Odyssey" line, completely removing what should have been your choice from you, and on the "hey, this is a fucking huge oversight you've made here, buddy" level, you've just completely erased people who've wanted to play this game as a homosexual, either as just a character thing, or, more majorly, as a reflection of themselves. And without mincing words, that's fucking bullshit. Now, Ubisoft apparently are addressing this in the next part of the DLC, and I think that's pretty cool, but at the same time, the fact that we've reached this point is absolutely crazy. And this amount of erasure really makes it difficult for me to recommend this game. Like, realistically, I can't. I think that's a really, really stupid oversight they've made. I mean, it's a shame. This is a really stellar game, and if you like action adventures, you would probably really enjoy Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And if you do enjoy it, then, you know, no harm to you. But at the same time, that's really stupid of them. Okay, so let's move on from the general ness of that previous entry's ending, and let's move on to one of my favourite games of 2018. Let's talk about Unavowed. So I love me a good adventure game, and a good adventure game, Unavowed, certainly is. I don't want to go into story elements or puzzles themselves, considering they are quite literally the game, they're the bread and butter, but the best way I can think to describe it is imagine an anthology of tales in which a paranormal police force find and sort irregularities in a beautifully thought out New York that combines the mundane world with mythology. Like, imagine Spriggans running around in Central Park. I love how puzzles focus more on investigation and who you've taken with you on a mission as opposed to long item collection hunts that you come to expect from the genre. You're not picking up items and then wondering what does what with what, why do you do that and with who and which way do you do it. It just keeps the game flowing naturally and it doesn't slow everything down to a crawl. Speaking of the characters, they are an absolute delight. It took me a while to realise this, but when I first took the subway, I didn't realise I actually had to select where I wanted to go. I was too busy listening to Eli and Mandana, and I thought it was just a wonderfully scripted cutscene, but no, this is something that I found out just happens, and I wanted to stick around and listen to Eli and Mandana talk for ages. I think the biggest praise I can give Unavowed is that it feels like one of those shows that had come around the time of Buffy and the X-Files, that kind of character-centric sci-fi which manages to balance the world and its many different entities whilst focusing on what makes it strong. If Unavowed was a box set, I'd probably own it in 3 different mediums, but with the way the game's structured, I'm instead playing it as 3 different character builds. Essentially, if you enjoy point-and-click adventures and you enjoy the shows I just mentioned, you should really be checking out Unavowed.
I grew hungry while you bicker.
Quiet!
So those are some of the games I played during January. There's still a few that I still need to play, but you should expect them to turn up in next month's Watcha Playin. Stuff like Resident Evil 2 and Ace Combat 7, because I mean, with Resi, Capcom just like coming out the starting gates, essentially dropping potential Game of the Year material at the start of the year. Like you do. There's also most other things coming out in February as well, like Far Cry New Dawn and Metro Exodus, and I think something else coming out on February the 15th as well. It's a crazy stacked day. It's also when the Umbrella Academy comes out on Netflix, I think, which I'm probably going to be binging. What I really want to know is, what games have you been playing this month? Why don't you let me know down in the comments below and tell me what you're looking forward to in February. And I will see you then, and hopefully a little bit before. I've not made many videos this month, but it's mainly because I've been resettling back into my job and just resettling back into my flat. But we should hopefully have a few more things coming out soon. Either way, thanks for sticking around with me, thanks for sticking around and listening, and I'll catch you guys next time.